Hi, I'm Bill Hodges. My wife Phyllis Hodges, who writes for The Observer, and many of you see her articles, and I were talking. And one of the things that bothered us is we have over 11,000 members here in the Sun City Center Community Association. And only maybe 450 members show up for the candidates night. We've got 6 candidates that are running right now for the association board. Many people will never have a chance to talk with or know those people. 5 of the 6 have agreed to participate with us today on a position where they will be able to present themselves. They've been given a number of questions ahead of time. There's no tricks. They were able to tell me how many questions they'd like to answer or what ones they didn't feel appropriate, and there's no penalty to doing that. The interviews all will be under 10 minutes or very close to 10 minutes. I think by the time you watch the interviews, you'll get an opportunity to know a little more about these people and to be part of the voting process. So here we go with the first interview. Bill Hodges, and this is another in a series of interviews with people who are running for the Sun City Center Community Association Board of Directors. Today we have with us Mike Killian. Mike, good to see you.
Good to see you again.
You've been around Sun City for quite a while, but where did you come from before Sun City Center?
My wife and I came here in 2009 from Southeast Michigan. We came here to visit and help my mom, who had been a resident since 1970, and a few months after we arrived, she passed away. So it was at that point that we decided to make this our home, our new home.
I'll tell you what, I'd rather be in Southeast Michigan. I'd rather be here anytime. It's a pretty nice place to be. Where in Sun City do you currently reside?
I reside on Cherry Hills Drive, right adjacent to North Course Lane, almost in the shadow of the maintenance building.
And how long have you been here now?
It's 2009.
Okay, that's a pretty good amount of time. That's what
I've been coming here since 1970 when my folks bought their
house. Oh, so you have a long-term relationship with the community.
I have a long-term relationship with Sun City Center.
What education, business, or volunteer experience do you bring to Sun City Center that you think will be valuable for the board?
I have a degree in manufacturing engineering. I worked for General Motors Detroit Diesel, Daimler Chrysler, Ford Motor Company, and Roger Penske as a manufacturing engineer. I also have a brief stint with direct sales, some experience in direct sales. And after arriving in Sun City Center, I spent some time as a volunteer for security patrol. And in 2013, I'm not supposed to do that, but I did it anyway. I spent, from 2013 to 2016, I was on the board of directors as a director with Sun City Center. And shortly after getting on the board, being elected to the board, I was appointed by the president to be the club liaison director.
Okay.
And that was a job that I found very demanding and very rewarding too.
So you got to see all the different clubs.
I got to see all the clubs. I got to meet everybody and their brother. And I also have worked on the Fun Fest committee and various other committees.
What decisions of the board, and I know you've been active with the board still and watching, see what's going on. What decisions of the board have you seen recently that you liked and why?
I very much approved of the board's decision to build a new administration building and in the process not incur any debt for the community.
How about debt? We'll go into that a little later.
How about debt? I do not approve of the community going into debt at all, unless of course there's a catastrophic event that demands that we do so.
True, and a lot of us who grew up in the time period where debt was terrible feel that same way.
Well, I just don't think, and we've proved over and over again that we don't need debt here in Sun City Center in order to succeed.
What issues would you like to see brought before the board? Obviously, you're running and you feel that some things need to be done and that you can help do them. What things do you like to see come from what you're doing now?
There's a lot of things I'd like to see happen, but one thing I'd like to see is I'd like to see the board revisit and take an active, positive role in gathering the artists, craftspersons, gardeners from the community, their clubs, and have them make a concerted effort to improve the appearance of our community. We have a lot of competition with all kinds of new houses and communities going up around us. We are 50 years old plus, they're brand new, and we need to look as new and as desirable as possible. And I think I know that it's been done before, they had a committee, and it fell on its face. It should be revisited with a different attitude this time.
Are there any specific issues that you'd like to see done as far as making the community look better?
I think that landscaping should be done. You look outside this new administration building right next door, and it looks like a school playground. There's no flowers, there's no nice landscaping. You drive by, and it looks very austere. I have never approved of the color that we painted the buildings and the color that we put on the rooftops. I thought that was a huge mistake, unless you're trying to make, look as though you're camouflaging the community.
Long-range planning. What do you see for the community as far as long range?
I think that Sun City Center needs to be focused on remaining a high-quality community with the best amenities at the least price in the Tampa Bay area. That's something that we should focus on, especially now with all the construction going on.
That's certainly been something that has brought people here.
Yes, it has. It has. It's what brought people here and what seems to keep people here. And everybody you talk to, you always comment about what a great facilities we have and how many activities we have.
Given what you said just now, I'm assuming then pay-as-you-go is something that you feel strongly about, or are there exceptions to that?
Pay-as-you-go is something I feel very strongly about. That's why we are as successful as we have been. That seems to be and should be our plan of attack. You can always say, and I've had people ask me, well, I know you're really strong about pay-as-you-go and no debt, but would you ever consider it? Well, yeah, absolutely. There's always some situation where something would happen and you had to go into debt in order to survive. But that's the only reason I'd ever consider it.
Yeah, I don't like ever and never.
I don't either. There's no such thing as the absolute.
If you look at what happened up in Mexico Beach.
That's right.
Somebody's going to have to go into debt somewhere in order to put Mexico Beach back together.
They certainly are. They certainly are.
And that could happen here.
It could, at any point in time.
How do we attract quality new people to our community when we consider that there's a big pool being built over, actually a lagoon being built just a mile away from us, and of course a lot of other facilities going in? How do we keep attracting the kind of people we need to make this the community we hope it will continue to be?
Yeah, it's a good question. A lot of people have asked that and said, well, now that we're all built up and we don't have a builder here to attract new customers, how are we going to get people here? I don't feel that we need to have a builder here. I don't feel that we need to have a big construction project going on here. I came from a very sought after, very desirable community in Michigan, and the reason that it was so desirable and demanded such very good prices on their homes, real estate, was because of the community pride and the amenities that they had for the people that live there, just for the people that live there.
I've heard people from Valencia Lake saying they wish they brought over here because they didn't realize all we had.
Right.
So I guess our information center is a very important thing to keep going.
It is a very important thing to keep going. The people that come here need to know what we have, and our track record. Look, we were pioneers in this area.
Oh, yes, we were. And still are in many ways.
And still are in many ways. And I think somebody, I saw somewhere where he said, what would Del Webb think about Sun City Center if he saw it? And I think he would be very proud.
I have no doubt. The man was a genius. Mike, I ask everybody to take the last minute of what they have to sum up their thoughts to the voters who are listening to this. What would you like to say to them? And go ahead and say it.
I would first like to thank you for taking the time to present this information, get it out to the people. It's very important that the people be informed. And I would just like to say, I would like the opportunity again to represent all the people on the board of directors for the community association. So please vote for me, but most important, vote. That's the most important thing. And by the way, Dolores is a good candidate also.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate your being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, pretty quick, we'll have the next candidate. Hi, I'm Bill Hodges, and we have with us today a candidate for the Sun City Center Community Association Board, Peter Aluotto. Peter, pleased to have you with us.
My pleasure.
Peter, where did you call home before you came to Sun City Center, and how long have you been here?
Valrico, Florida, and I've been in Sun City Center for 14 months. But my parents and my in-laws have been here since the mid-'80s, so that makes me a second-generation Sun City Center resident.
Before you came to Sun City Center, what kinds of businesses or educational backgrounds do you have that might apply to the board?
I received my undergraduate degree from Seton Hall University, New Jersey, and I have a master's degree in urban planning and public administration from the University of Southern California. And prior to coming here, I was formerly the Director of Planning and Growth Management for Hillsborough County, as well as the same title, same position for Charles County, Maryland, and Escambia County in the Panhandle.
The thing that a lot of people want to know is, of course, why you're running for the board, and I'm assuming that you spent some time looking at board decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what board decisions have you particularly liked? What maybe do you think could have been done differently? And what maybe didn't get brought up that you thought should have been brought up or could be brought up?
Well, I like the idea of building a new administration building for the simple reason that when the old building gets too expensive to repair and maintain, you're generally better off starting new. I also like the idea of doing a triannual reserve study because that tells you exactly what you need to put aside to do the care and feeding of the rest of the campus. On the downside, I'm not all that happy about approving a budget that has a $200,000 shortfall.
Budgets appear to be important to you.
Yes, and covering it with fund balance, because you can only do that a limited number of times. To me, that's like using savings account to pay for your groceries. You can only do that so long.
That's true.
And as far as I know, there's no written policy about how low you can make that go.
Peter, with that, what vision do you have, and what would you like to see the board do in the future to make it a better community?
Well, my notion is that we need to return to the vision that Del Webb had when he first created this community and during the Kennedy administration. His notion was to create an active retirement community for, active adults.
True.
And the facilities he built, were excellent for the time that they were built. But as I said, they were built during the Kennedy administration. Our pool was one of the largest around at the time. Now it's pretty average. A lot of the buildings that we have were great for the time, but now we're coming up to the year 2020, and we're definitely in need of an upgrade. So my idea is to reestablish Sun City Center as the premier retirement community in Florida, because we have a lot of competition now, competition that we didn't have, and our developers are long gone, so now it's up to us to carry the ball the rest of the way.
So one of the things you would support then is looking at a new pool?
I would certainly look at that. We've done several studies in the past, as you know, in 2009 and 2012, asking the residents what they'd like to see. And I thought there's some very excellent ideas in there. Now what we need to do is just implement them. We just need to roll up our sleeves and get them done.
I'm assuming, and maybe it's a bad assumption, since budgets seem to be very, very important to you, how do you stand on not going into debt for the purchase of new facilities?
Well, it all depends. It depends on what you're buying. It depends on the cost of money and how long you're willing to wait, to get the facility. Now, to be sure, there's a lot to be said for, pay as you go. You save some money on finance charges. You have the no liability shows up in your balance sheet, and generally the residents are happy and proud of the fact that they live in a debt-free community. On the other hand, there are some advantages to pay as you use. You lock in the construction price at today's prices. You get to build it sooner. You get to use it sooner, and you get to enjoy it as you're paying for it, much like you did when you bought your first home or your first car. and you establish a credit rating for the association. If you've ever tried to buy money, you have to have a credit rating.
Well, that's true.
We've never done that, so we don't really have a credit rating, and so that's a plus side. In any event, I think the residents should know that if the board ever decided to do that, to finance anything, that their homes would not be in jeopardy.
I think that's a very important thing. What things would you do personally to support bringing new residents into our facilities and attracting people? We don't have a builder anymore. So
That's
what would
correct.
you do to help us bring people here?
I think the thing that brings people here are attractions to things that they can't get anywhere else. Those were golf courses for Del Webb.
Right.
Now we know golf is gone and people are not coming for golf.
Well, there are a
anymore.
few golfers here.
Yes, right.
But
what
you're
I'm
right.
saying is, right now we have a lot of empty golf courses. So it seems to me that would be the biggest priority, is converting those properties into attractions with additional outdoor recreation, maybe a little reforestation, maybe some hiker-biker trails. There's a long list of bright ideas in the book that we have in the library just down the hall. And I think we need to get to work on those, because those are things people are attracted to. Right now, Bill, we're in a situation where a person retires from the Northeast, they come here, they can get a brand new home in one of the surrounding communities. The developer will pay their closing costs and give them a free year of association membership. If they come to Sun City Center, they get a 30 or 40-year-old house, and they get an $1,800 welcome fee when they sign up. So which would you choose? There has to be something here, and I think our clubs are probably the biggest strength, to make them all
150, 160
exactly, to make them want to come here. So those are the kinds of things that I think would be attractive to new retirees.
Should we do advertising outside of the community?
I think that would be
You
an
came from
excellent idea.
Valrico, and
Yes.
it's pretty easy to come down and look. Del Webb used to fly people in and out. Should we work with an ad agency or anything of that nature, do you think, to bring people down?
Well, that's certainly a possibility, and it's certainly something I would consider. Because the developers that are here now have booths in all these retirement shows that they conduct in the Northeast
Yes.
and the Midwest. They all have booths, and they talk about how wonderful their communities are. Now that Minto's gone, we don't have a booth. So somehow we have to co-market with them somehow, which they probably wouldn't be interested in. Or we need to come up with other avenues, to advertise what we've got here, because I think we have an outstanding community here.
I've always thought our people are our strength.
I agree.
That there's, if everybody, all 11,000 people in our association wrote the folks up north and said, hey, this is a great place.
That's how most of them come here.
Yes.
They come to visit and they say,
But
wow,
you
this is
came
pretty.
that way.
Exactly, it's the way I came.
You had people here.
Yeah.
What would you like to share with our audience that's watching this? Your hopes, dreams, what would you like to accomplish with your time on the board?
Well, if I can accomplish reuse of the golf courses and maybe do some beautification and aesthetics in our community, there's a lot of things we can do with signage. I would love to do that. And if I can wrap up, because I know we're running short. Ladies and gentlemen, if we continue to do the things we've always done, the results are going to be the same. I think we can do better. I think we can do a lot better. And if you agree with me, I would appreciate your vote on December 4th and December 5th. Vote for Peter Aluotto.
Thank you, Peter. Really appreciate you coming in this morning. And I'll have to say, I appreciated your getting back to me very quickly on everything that I sent to you.
Well, thank you. It was my pleasure.
It's very important.
My pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Peter Aluotto, candidate for the Sun City Center Community Association Board 2018. We're voting 2019. He'll be in office, or whoever you elect will be in office. Take the time to watch each of these videos and think about the people you're going to vote for. We'll be seeing you again very quickly on the next video. Hi, I'm Bill Hodges, and we're talking with the candidates for the Sun City Center Community Association Board. With me now, I have Sam Sudman. Sam, good to have you on the program.
My pleasure.
You know, Sam, we've known each other for a long time, but I'm kind of interested to find out a little bit about your background. Where is it that Sam Sudman and his wife Joanne came from before coming to Sun City?
Cincinnati, Ohio.
Oh, that was just down the road from us in Dayton.
That's right. Dayton's a suburb of Cincinnati.
How long were you in Cincinnati?
I was born and raised there, left for my career, came back in '78, and left there again in 2005.
Where do you now live?
Now live in Calusa Lakes, over on East Del Webb, here
How
in
long
Sun
have you
City
been
Center.
here? Since 2005?
Been here 13 years.
That's a pretty good distance.
Yes, it is.
What is it in your education, business background, volunteer background that you think you'd bring to the board of directors here in Sun City Center?
Well, I have a bachelor's, 3 masters, and a doctorate.
3 masters.
Yes, I do. I have a Master of Science, Master of Public Health, and an MBA. I did my research at the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta many years ago. I've worked in state government, public health, most recently as a public health laboratory director for 2 states. I had 2 adjunct university academic positions, 34 years in the Army Reserve in a medical laboratory, combat support, and general hospitals, and I retired with the rank of colonel. I owned and operated a service business in Cincinnati and served with the Internal Revenue Service for 10
Trying
years.
to remember all those things, I'd have to read them too.
It is, yes, of course. Senior moments step in. I was with the Taxpayer Advocate Service with the Internal Revenue Service.
There in Cincinnati?
There in Cincinnati. I did that in retirement to hopefully keep my mind a little sharper. And throughout all this time, I also volunteered for numerous not-for-profit organizations, and I chaired the outcomes program for the United Way in Cincinnati.
What kind of volunteer work have you done since you've been here?
Well, let's see. I think I made a list of those here.
Let's start with the current and work backwards.
Okay, well, I've got written down here so I wouldn't forget. I've worked for our community since moving here. I've been president of my POA for about 11 years. Has 112 homes in it. I've been on the board of directors of the CA corporate secretary. I am the governmental liaison to the CA, working closely with Hillsborough County and the state of Florida.
What does that do?
Well, that gives us an inroad to the county on particular issues where we would like them to help us. And so I've established a relationship on behalf of our board with many of the staff so that I can call them, write them, and if we have particular issues, ask for their assistance.
I think that's the hardest thing for many of our members to understand, is that the association really has no official standing with the county. That it's all a matter of our working with them, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, we have no official standing, period. Our charter, our papers, only authorize us to maintain the facilities and the programs. We have no say over any of the HOAs, POAs, except to the extent that we enforce the age overlay through them primarily, and then we take care of it. In addition to that, I'm on the security patrol, emergency squad, deliver Meals on Wheels. I install Lifeline. I co-chaired the Community Association breakfasts in the past with Joanne for 5 years, just to name a few.
That's a monumental list, just to name a few. You're on the current board now. Well, actually, you're not. You're an ex officio member of the current board, is that correct?
Well, I'm not a director. I am a corporate secretary, so
Okay.
I am part of the structure, but not officially, not a member of the board of directors.
What have you watched this current board do that you like what they did?
Well, I think that our board is very conscientious on behalf of the 11,500 people in advancing the modernization of our community, consistent with the wishes of the community, that we pay as we go, and also that we do it consistent with our legal papers and our 501c3.
Having sat on the board or with the board at every one of these meetings, are there anything you've seen that you particularly didn't like what the board direction was doing?
No, the board is very responsive and sensitive to input from the community. So when we hear of an issue, we discuss it. There are varying opinions among the board members as to their preferences, but we all discuss it, and at the end of the day, we pretty much reach consensus.
If and when you were elected to the board and have an official voice on the board again, are there any issues that you'd like to bring forth that you maybe can't do now?
No, because I'm still developing that list. We've been pretty active, and the issues that have been brought up have been ones that I would have been interested in, but as far as a particular list of areas, I'm still working on developing that.
What do you see as the long-range vision for Sun City Center? We've lost our builder now.
Correct.
So what do we do to maintain a relative relationship to the other areas of town and to bring new people in?
Well, my vision for the community is to keep an open, objective mind to new ideas, to improve relations with Kings Point, and to work with stakeholders in the area to develop the community around us. We're more than just the CA. We have all the businesses and a lot of building that's going on around us. And so I think that it's important to reach out to our talented members who bring a wealth of experience and expertise to our community to assist us in setting goals and achieving our objectives.
A few years ago, of course, growth is difficult sometimes, and we can't build anymore. We've got all the buildings we're going to get as far as houses are concerned. But we have to look to the future of the various things that might happen within our community. There are a group of people in town who are definitely against going into debt for anything.
Correct.
How are your feelings on that subject?
Well, the community has spoken. I will honor that. We have accomplished quite a bit in the 8 years that I've been involved with the board on a pay-as-you-go basis. And so we're not exactly standing still. We're moving forward, and I think that if the membership decides someday, because the membership base changes a little bit, that they want to take on responsible financing, we can certainly consider that. But right now, I'm prepared to honor their wishes.
Sam, I'd like to let each of the candidates speak directly to the voters and tell them what they think or ask for their vote, and this is your opportunity to face the camera and to do just that.
Well, my gratification for being on the board comes from helping people. It's, I call it paying back and paying forward. Some people play pickleball, some people lawn bowl, some people go softball, they belong to clubs, stained glass, etc. I get my kicks, if you will, from just working for the community to help them. That's who I've been all my life. I learned it from my parents. I did it throughout my entire working career, and I'll continue. I pledge to continue to work for the 11,500 with an open mind, and I will be objective. My focus is on pursuing the interests of mainstream Sun City Center.
Sam Sudman, thank you for being with us.
My pleasure.
This has been Sam Sudman, candidate for the Sun City Center Community Association Board of Directors. I love having you watch this. I hope you'll watch all of them. Hi, I'm Bill Hodges, and we're back with another of our interviews with the Board of Directors candidates for the Sun City Center Community Association. I have with me Doug Seipelt. Doug,
Bill,
thank you for
nice
coming
to meet
in.
you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's get a little history on Doug.
Okay.
Where, before you came to Sun City, were you living?
We came here from Ohio.
Oh, really?
Just a little
I did see your 937 on
Yeah.
your cell phone.
Dayton.
Yeah,
It's a
but
Dayton number.
we're from the same place.
Yeah, well, oh, that's good. We're about 50 miles from Dayton, Columbus, and Cincinnati, right in that little triangle towards the river. We came there back in 2007, snowbirds for a long, long time, but we lived in Boulder, Colorado for almost 20 years. We lived in Washington, D.C., right down the street from the Supreme Court for a number of years.
Oh, really?
And so we've been around a lot of different places. And
Almost sounds like you're military.
a lobbyist.
Oh, obvious. Okay.
I worked for both state governments, federal government. I've been all over the world. I've got about 2 million miles under my belt on United Airlines.
Wow.
And,
Hope you got some of those extra miles left.
well, I have a pretty gold card in my pocket that gets me first class anytime I travel for the rest of my life.
Sounds like a pretty good deal there.
So I did pretty well.
Where in Sun City Center are you living?
We live just down the road on West Del Webb, and we bought there in 2007. Spent a good bit of money to upgrade the house and make it look the way we wanted to make it look, and so we've enjoyed that house.
So you've been here about 10 years.
Just a little over.
Tell me, what business, educational, or volunteer background do you think you have that makes you the best candidate to serve on our board?
Well, sometimes people answer me that, and you only told me I only have 10 minutes to tell you what I've done in 50 years. So I'll try and be really brief, but I believe I have the credentials, and I've said this when I got elected the last time, that I have dealt with money and been chairman of the board of $2 billion 501c3s, which is what we are here. I have been on numerous national boards of national companies around the country. I've in my Washington, D.C. days, I married a young lady that worked for a president. So between the two of us, we had a pretty decent run in D.C. I have consulted to numerous presidents. I have been testifying in the United States Congress for I don't know how many times, many times. When we lived in Boulder, I got on an airplane Monday mornings and I didn't come home till Friday night.
That's no fun.
And yes, but I actually got to stay in some pretty nice places. But my background is money and management. I've had literally thousands of people that have worked for me in my capacities. I had a consulting company that I started in 1984, and I have consulted to almost every top 10 bank in the country, most of the educational institutions, the top tier institutions. And on two separate occasions, I was committed by a presidential appointment and also a congressional appointment to study the federal financing structure for higher education.
interesting
on the federal
career.
level. I've done a lot of pretty neat things, been a lot of neat places.
What are some of the things that you've watched our board do in recent years that you particularly liked?
Well, in terms of particularly liked, I've enjoyed the board members because they are sincere. They want to do the best thing they can for a group of people that are quite diverse. And so it is very difficult sometimes to reach consensus. They work at that consensus. Sometimes they make good consensus decisions and sometimes maybe not so good. But I believe they're all dedicated to make this city, this community a better place. So I enjoy that part of it a lot.
Can you think of any of the board decisions over the last couple of years that maybe you'd like to have seen change?
Well, I think there's, to be really honest, I think there was a board decision that we ran some changes up the flagpole here, tied them into some major financing, did not get buy-in from the community for what was needed to be done, and that process set the tone for a lot of things that we're doing today, which is we're concerned at how to, in effect, create ideas and get everybody to buy into them. Because there's, in the world I lived in the Congress, you always had to find the compromise. You had to find the middle ground for people to participate and vote the right way. So I think there's been that. I'm a finance guy, and so I'm concerned that over the last 3 or 4 years we have spent down our reserves, our cash reserves, which I personally wish that hadn't happened because we have way too many issues here to, in effect, spend down reserves and not charge what's necessary for all of us to live here. It costs money to live in Sun City Center.
It sure does. If you were on the board, what issues would you want to bring personally to the board?
Well, I've got 2 issues that I've been championing this whole year. I am currently the chair of the committee for long range planning, and I spent all of the winter months and into the summer interviewing people, trying to find out what people thought about where we're at, what do we need, what do we want, what are we going to do, and then I tied that into, okay, if you want to do this, this is what it costs. If you want to do that, it costs this. And I've written I wrote a paper for the board and the staff, the CA staff, that lined out that there are numerous projects. People talk about a club pool, a resort pool. We talk about buildings that we need thousands of dollars to be spent on in repairs. And in effect, should you repair a building for $250,000 or should you build a new building that's going to last another 50 years?
That's a hard decision.
It's a very hard
the board has
decision.
to make.
And,
And speaking of that, speaking of another 50 years,
uh-huh.
Larry, how do we bring new people into our community? How do we keep the vision of Sun City outside of Sun City so people do move in here?
Well, I just sat in on another meeting this morning, the 3rd meeting of something called Sun City Connects. And it's a process of trying to identify how do we develop volunteerism, how do we keep our community viable. I've got, as a board member, in terms of what I've done with my life, I wrote most of the legislation with 2 other people that created the whole financing structure for higher education. All of the loan money, the Pell money, the work study, that is something that I did. And that was a very visionary document. It happened in the early 1970s, And the interesting thing is that all of that is still operational today. It's how your grandkids and your children and my grandkids and my children go to college. And those programs which I wrote into law and implemented stand at $2 trillion today.
Wow.
So
So we need to keep that in mind and drawing people in here. We've got about a minute left.
About a minute.
I want to give you an opportunity to talk directly with the voters and tell them anything you'd like in the next minute.
Well, in the next minute, I believe in this place. I have. That's why we moved here. Susan and I could have moved anywhere in the country that we wanted. We came here because my brother was here. Now we've got our daughter here. We've got our sister-in-law is here now. So we got family here.
You got a campaign committee.
I'm a campaign committee. I moved him here. But I want you to know that in terms of what I have done in 50-some years, I have worked for the people of this country, through the Congress, through states, and banks and savings and loans and educational institutions. And I have, my wife and I both have dedicated our life to that service. And I care what happens about this place. I want it to move forward. But I want it to recognize that, in effect, there are a lot of issues we need solved here. We are aging out. Our buildings are aging out. Our finance structure is not conducive to being still viable in 20 years. It was great in 1959 and 1960, but it's a financing structure that needs to be re-looked at. And I plan on trying to push through thought processes and vision that will make that happen. Understand?
Doug, I appreciate your being here. Thank you so
Okay.
much. You gave us a lot of information to think about, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the candidates night and around the buildings so people can get a chance to ask you more questions.
Sounds good.
Thanks for
Thank you.
watching. We'll go on to the next candidate. Hi, I'm Bill Hodges, and this is another of the candidates for Board of Director of the Sun City Center Community Association. Larry Smith. Larry, pleased to meet you.
My pleasure.
Glad to have you on the show today and for people to get a chance to know a little bit about you. It's interesting. You had to travel a long way to get here. Tell us where you came from.
Well, in fact, I've got a business card that I hand out that has my name and address on it, and it says I come from up north. I come from Tampa. It's north.
It is north. How long did you live in Tampa?
We moved here in 1958.
The year I graduated from high school, and you weren't probably in high school at that point.
No, I went through elementary, junior high, and high school here. And my parents retired back to Sun City Center back in the mid-'80s and lived here until after 2000.
So you're
passed.
second generation.
I'm a second generation Sun City Center.
Where do you now live here in Sun City?
I'm in the new subdivision. It's Verona. That
A lot of
is
people
just
don't know
finishing.
where that is. That's brand new to many people. That's where the golf center used to be, correct?
Correct. It's right next to the Sandpiper Golf Course. We're sandwiched somewhat between Sandpiper and Club Links golf courses.
And how long have you been here? Because that's reasonably new area.
I've been here 3 years, and we were the 20th, or what we call the pioneers. That
Oh, you're one of the
originally-
first ones. They're groundbreaking over there.
We were one of the first families that moved in.
What educational, business, community, volunteer background do you think you bring to the board that will be valuable to the citizens here?
The biggest thing is I spent 25 years in my own business, that a lawnmower mechanic. I had a tool and equipment rental business where I rented tools and equipment to homeowners that were doing things around their house. And I think that gives me a real unique perspective of talking with different people.
Yeah.
Trying to help people know how to use different things, how to do things on their own, which is something that in this community people need and use and seem to think that they'd like to know how to do things. How can I get something done?
I think there's a club even that's a How to Fix It club or something.
There's a number of clubs. I'm in the Sawdust Engineers,
Oh,
which
that's
does
a
a lot
great
of
club.
woodworking. It's a great club. We've got over 300 members and 50 women that are in the club.
Of the decisions that the board has made over the past couple of years that you've been here, what do you like about what they've done?
The biggest thing, what I learned, I started attending board meetings right after I moved here. And I like to know what's going on. You hear rumors from different people, and you'd like to know what is really happening.
Yeah,
And it's
rumors don't get there.
the rumors fly everywhere that they think they know. And so many of the things that the board does, there's so much backstory. It's not that it's hidden. It's that to get to know it, it takes time. And that time that you spend sitting in meetings, talking to some of the elected directors, you learn a lot of things of what goes through. I found that the directors here are a very deliberative process. They do a lot of background work. So it takes a lot to know the decisions, what they make. And as a resident, you'd like to know that information. And it's difficult to critique what you don't know.
That's the truth. And I hear a lot of people complain, and you say, what are you willing to do? And nothing.
Well, that's one of the reasons I'm doing, on November 4th, I'm doing a Meet Larry Smith and tell me what you think about what's happening in the CA. I've taken a room in the Caper Room over in the atrium, and from 7 to 9 o'clock on the 4th, I'm going to be trying to meet residents that I don't know so that I can get to know what do they think is the important things that the CA should be doing.
What decisions that you've seen the board make over the last couple of years, maybe you don't agree with? Are there any of those?
Quite frankly, no. As I've learned the backstory of all the things
And that's
and why
important.
they
The
did.
backstory is very important.
It is. Not that it's hidden. It's that it takes a little digging to get to know what's the whole story. What is going on? The CA offices building, that was a really good thing to dig into. And I think it's a great thing. And about segue into that, the whole idea that we're a cash and carry neighborhood, that's an excellent way to retire. That's kind of how I live my life. I got all
A
my
lot of
debts.
us have.
A lot of us have. We've paid our debts off. We don't owe anything. I only got to worry about groceries and the electric bill.
What would you like to see as a board member be brought up that as someone just participating in the meetings, you can't get it there, or you might be able to ask a question, but as a board member you have more ability to bring things up. What are the issues you'd like to see brought up?
One of the things I've learned out of my career, I was an elected official for the city of Tampa for 4 years.
Really?
And one of the things that I like to do was, since I was in a neighborhood and I was in a retail business, people came to talk to you. And it's surprising how much you can learn. A lot of it is different complaints. A lot of it there's out of your control, and you can tell people where to go. I don't want to tell you where to go, but I can tell you who to contact.
One of the things I found out in life is that people will tell me two things: what time it is and where to go. So I don't wear a watch and I take direction well.
And being able to tell somebody that here's a good contact person, knowing where the contacts are so they can get their own information, I think that's really beneficial.
Very important.
I would like
Know
to
where the bones
continue.
are buried.
I think so. I think going out to the community, and I'm thinking 4 times a year, having a time where, hey, anybody wants to come by and just have a casual talk. This is where I'll be. This is what I'm doing. If you have something that you really want to discuss without being in a formal session, I'm available and I'm ready to talk with you about it.
We have to look to the future. Can we maintain the way we are? Do we have to change? Are we changing? From a long-range planning standpoint, do you have a vision for where you think the community should be going?
I've worked on long-range plans again in government, and this is not anything but a real smaller neighborhood than a county-wide government. Worked on long-range plans with the county and with the state plan. The whole idea of having a plan so you have a target of where to go. We want to keep our property values. We want to keep it a fun and exciting place for retirees to live and things to do. And constantly listening to what the residents say as things change. There'll be a gentrification is a word I learned, that things do change. And keeping up with that change to keep things that people want today is a really important thing to keep the place valuable.
I heard you talk about paying for what you buy. This community has been steeped in the don't spend it if you don't have it. Is that where you stand?
I love the idea of pay as you go. We accumulate certain funds. Always, if there was a disaster or something that happened that we couldn't finance ourselves, then we have that
Mexico
opportunity.
Beach.
You could do that if we had to. But I want it to only use it as we have to, not something that we want, it's something that we need. And keeping needs and wants separate is something that the community has to express.
We've lost our builder, and one of the problems with that is obviously we've lost outreach. Do you have any ideas on how to keep this community in the forefront of people looking to come down and buy a place in Florida?
I really do. The whole question of whether you really need to advertise what you're doing and spend that money on advertising to keep our values up, or if it is something that word of mouth, if we stay a vibrant community with new people moving in, we'll always be having that reputation of being an upscale, well-maintained, lots of facilities, and I think that will take care of itself. At this time, I don't see a need to be spending money on advertising.
Larry Smith, you've got the last minute just to talk to the voters and tell them what you'd like.
The only things I'd like to talk about is that I feel that I like to listen to what people are saying. I really do believe that a wise man listens to everyone and then does what he thinks is right. And I like to be able to listen to people, and whether you can agree or not agree, you don't have to be disagreeable. And being able to take that input and share that input with fellow board members, I think is a good thing. And as a communicator, I feel like I can do that. I would like to do that for you. I enjoy doing that for you. So anything I could do, I'd appreciate your support, and I'd appreciate your vote at the time that we have the voting in December.
Larry Smith, thank you so much for being with us. I appreciate it. We'll be back in just a few seconds with another of the candidates. And again, Larry, thanks for coming in and doing this with us.
Thank you for doing this. I think it is a great thing for the community and a new way, again, to communicate.
It's important, communications. Thank you.